The next step in our abstract painting is to work with analogous colors. So analogous colors are colors that are next to each other on the color wheel. So my main color that I'm using is blue. So when I look at the color wheel, blue, purple is on one side and green is on the other. So I can either choose purple or green. I'm gonna work with purple, and I'm going to mix purple with my main color blue. So when I do this, I'm gonna take and put some blue on my plate so that I'm not getting purple into my main color. And now I'm going to put some purple on my plate, and I'm gonna take a little bit of that blue. So it's mostly purple with just a little bit blue mixed in. And I'm going to still paint those same vertical lines, still working on variety, still working on balance, and I'm trying to fill in any spots that are still showing. You can overlap also. If you go over the top of one of your other lines or shapes that you made, no big deal. That's part of abstract. Now I want to make another color with my analogous colors. So I'm rinsing and drying my brush. I'm going to take a bigger scoop of purple this time, get some of my blue. So now it should be about half and half. And again, I'm filling in any spots that are still showing. Thinking about balance, thinking about variety. So I have some thin, some thick, some short, some long. And I'm gonna make one more of those colors. So again, I'm gonna rinse my brush, dry my brush, and this time a little bit of purple, and I have a lot of blue. I'm gonna grab some more blue. So this blue violet is gonna be mostly blue. It just has a little bit of purple in there. Filling in all those spots. And don't forget to work on craftsmanship too. So you want this to still be very neat as you're working. I'm going to try to cover up any drips or any mistakes that you've made. Okay. Now the next thing that we're going to do is go to the other analogous color. So again, my color's blue. I've already mixed it with purple. Now I'm going to go and mix it with green. For this next step, we're going to use complementary colors. Complementary colors are colors that are across from each other on the color wheel. So my main color is blue. I'm going to be working with orange for this next step because it's directly across from my color. If you were working with green, red is its complement. If you were working with violet or purple, yellow is its complement. So it's across from each other on the color wheel. I was using blue on my original example, and you can see that I have a little bit of orange in there. So you don't want to cover your paper with orange. You just want to do 10% or so with your complementary color. So I have my complementary color orange. Now we're gonna make tints and shades of that color. You can kind of decide how many you want to do. Think of this sort of like an accent color. You don't want to fill your paper with this. So you can make a few tints, a few shades, and then think about your balance and where you want to put those. So remember that when you're making tints, you want to start with white first. Always start with your lightest color. And when you're making shades, you want to start with your complementary color and then mix the black into that. Always start with your lightest color first. So a couple of things to think about as you're painting your complementary color. First of all, don't cover the whole paper. You're just doing about 10 to 15% of it. So it's kind of, think of it kind of like accents throughout. Do a nice variety, some small, some medium, some large. Have a few darks and a few lights, a few tints and a few shades. And remember that if you're going over paint that's wet, that's going to change the color a little bit. So if I painted into my areas that still had a little bit of wet paint from my tints and shades, I have to be a little bit careful to make sure that those aren't mixing together unless that's the look that you want. That's part of being an abstract artist. You have to kind of decide if you want to work wet and wet or if you want to focus more on those dry areas. Think about too, when you're painting that complementary, it should help your piece of art, not hurt it. So if there's a little spot that maybe you want to cover up, if there's a part that maybe is too dark and you want to add a tint there, if there's a part that maybe has too many lights and you want to add a shade, you really should not just be throwing it on there. Think about where you're placing each of the colors so that you have a nice overall balance. Okay, the last step that we're going to do is add a accent color. And this you don't have to mix at all. You can do the pure accent color. If you want to mix tints and shades of it, you can. But this is really just a few areas here and there, nice balance. You can see my pink was my accent color. This pink color was my accent. And I have still a little bit of a variety, some large, some medium, some small, and it has a nice overall balance of where I placed those. So think a little bit about what's a good accent color, where you would want to also put your accent color. So when you're choosing your accent color, think about, we talk about that art tells a story. So what story are you creating with your abstract art? The story I was thinking about when I was painting this is water, and I was thinking about sunset and how when the sun hits the water and it reflects onto the water. I want to use white as my accent color because I want to add a few whites in there to kind of show the waves, the white on the top of the waves. So that's going to be my accent color. You can choose any accent color that you want to. Think about your story a little bit. What kind of mood are you creating? What look are you creating? What story are you creating? And when you're doing your accent, still think about balance. Think about if I'm painting into areas that are still wet, what's gonna happen? It's gonna mix those colors together. Do I want that to happen? Do I not want that to happen? And this is the last thing that you're going to do. So really think about your balance and think about the overall composition.